running now. Okay, so just to get into a quick overview of today, we'll start with a background of this effort. Then we'll get into an overview of the funding opportunity. Then we'll get into the details of how to apply, key dates, next steps, and finally questions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. In the meantime, if you have something that is cropping up as we are covering our brief material here. Okay, so as context, in May 2024, HB 24-1308 was passed, establishing specific procedures and timelines for full application underwriting and contract execution. Earlier this year, we held a pilot pre-application round in conjunction with the division's PSH RFA. We broadened the scope of the pre-application to include all tax credit project types in June, and we are repeating this process now for 2026 round 1. So we are making approximately 17 million available for this round, and that will look like about 15 million of HGG vendor fee and 2 million of PEH 123 funds. The pre-applications will be due before the CHFA round. DOH will provide conditional determinations in advance of the CHFA submission deadlines. If a project is successful in obtaining both a DOH conditional determination as well as in the CHFA round, the borrower or grantee would then formally apply through a regular quarterly cycle in the future, once they're ready to close on construction financing. Important to flag that DOH will still accept requests for tax credit projects in any regular round, and developers do not need to go through the pre-application process in order to compete for funding. Okay, so a schedule of what's ahead. We ask that you submit a pre-application LOI to us if you are interested in this opportunity by October 31, and you'll submit that to your housing development specialist. Please name any project partners that you have in place, including the property manager and other members of the project team. We'll follow our typical process here of confirming that there's no open compliance issues. If you have any questions about that at all, please reach out to your housing development specialist as soon as you can. November 14th will be the deadline for the pre-application. December 1 will be the CHFA LOI deadline. We plan to issue conditional determinations by January 15th in time for the February 1 CHFA round 1 application deadline. So a full pre-application will include a completed neighborly application, so that's sections A through D only, so that's a change from last time. A completed DOH budget spreadsheet or a CHFA budget spreadsheet, either one is fine, and project team company bios. And we'll be scoring the submissions using the DOH housing development scoring criteria.
And hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Casano. I'm the Director, Office of Housing Finance and Sustainability here at the Division of Housing. See that there's some questions, but I just want to highlight some of the feedback that we've gotten and changes. So after our first round here, we got feedback on both sides that this was too soon and too late. I think both are valid. We understand that projects change a lot between this pre-application and when you're ready to apply. So we're trying to be flexible here, but we also want to make sure that we are getting you decisions in advance of CHFA's application. And so this round was a little bit earlier than the last one. Because of that, we're shortening what we're requiring here, right? So we're dropping some neighborly sections. We are not expecting you to give us LOIs. Please focus on that for your CHFA application. And again, just looking for basic information about your project team. Sarah has a question here about trouble getting feedback. I would recommend that you reach out now to your development specialists. And the idea is we'll get you feedback as soon as possible. Sarah noted that you've had some issues in the past. If folks are having issues, also feel free to contact directly. But understand that this is critical for your process, and so we'll get that to you as soon as we can. One other key thing to note here is on the scoring criteria. We did get a lot of feedback about scoring. I understand for some folks, this is your first time applying to us under our new quarterly cadence, and things are a little bit more rigid than they were 3 years ago, pre-1308 here at the Division of Housing. We have updated our scoring criteria not to change categories, but to provide a finer point on what we're looking for and where you score points. And so I would recommend everyone revisit that scoring category link. And please, we're open to your feedback. We'd love questions. We're balancing, not trying to change things all the time and giving everyone a warning with understanding that you needed a little bit more last time around. So please take a look at that and let us know if you have questions. All right, next slide. Looking ahead, as we've noted, if you do get a pre-awarded through this process, you can apply in any quarterly round, right? So even if it's a federal only round, which is planned for February, if you are ready, please come on in. Effectively, we are holding this funding available for you as long as you submit a full application. If you look on our website, it has it clearly through the rest of this fiscal year. We are required to update for next year by May. We will anticipate doing that in advance of May, but expect a quarterly application cycle going into next fiscal year as well, so you can plan. Note that these pre-awards will be active 1 year from your tax credit award. So you can come into any cycle up to a year from your tax credit award. Obviously, we have our housing development specialist contacts here. Folks, you should be familiar with these people, but if you're not, please reach out. We are here to help you through this process. All right, and I already see a question on the chat from Sarah. So the strategic growth compliance has to do with the governor's executive order on land use. Please note this is only applicable to local governments. And so effectively, if you are not a local government applying, you will not be eligible for these. To be totally honest, on the rental side, we do not see a lot of local government applicants. And so not super concerned here, but happy to answer direct questions if it impacts a project that you're working on. Other questions?
Hi, Teresa. I can't remember if A through D in Neighborly have attachments when it comes to the full application, but in case they do, can you clarify? No, I think last time it was no attachments are required with the pre-app. Same this time.
Yes, same this time. So we're only looking for really your development bios. And again, no LOIs this time either. So trying to keep this as simple as possible.
Great, thank you.
Shayna.
Hi, thanks. Just a question on the funding sources that are tied to these. So when we go in for, say, the LOI or a pre-application, are those the sources that are being held for you, or are the sources that are listed when you in which quarter you would come in with your full application, the sources that you would be going in?
Great question, and I recognize it's a little confusing. So we're holding two sources for these applications, pre-applications: housing development grant money, which is non-federal, does not trigger federal requirements. And then for those of you working in the supportive housing space, you would be eligible for that PH 123 money. So my point is you can come in any round, no matter what is listed as sources available. Effectively, this process, we are reserving HDG and PH 123 for projects that get pre-awards. Shayna, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
And what I'll say is we certainly recognize this is not perfect. We are trying to make sure folks have a DOH commitment in hand that is compliant with 1308 before CHFA. We really do welcome your feedback because what happens next fiscal year is still a little bit up in the air. I know some folks gave us great feedback after our first, the pilot and sort of the round we did over the summer. Again, if you're participating, would love to keep getting that feedback as we figure out how to best work with our state partners here. Other questions? I was on a webinar last week where the presenter said I was a middle school teacher, so I'm very comfortable with long silences. I was not a middle school teacher, and so I just want to fill the space. But I see one more question here. These funds are for the capital funds. Yes, there will be. Let us check with our colleagues at OHI about the CHFA opportunity, with the caveat of obviously we're in a scarce funding environment, so there are some things still up in the air on the TSS voucher side, but we can blast that out to you, Oriana. I'll note this capital process is for all projects, not just permanent supportive housing. We do just have a set aside of PH123 funds. And so if you work in that world, that might be a great fit for you. Any other questions for the group? Otherwise, I think Natalie and I can stay on for a few more minutes here. If folks want to drop off, we're happy to answer questions directly or just hang out.
I think I'll probably stop the recording.
Shane, I see that you also would like info there, so we will get back to you on that.